is about our story, or Nanny more specific, her journey from Jamaica to England, and I guess how I've interpreted that through my own imagination, and how she's, you know, planted that seed of a home or coming from somewhere else, and how that's been planted within my own self and identity.
Do you feel that your interpretation is a true reflection of your experience or Nanny's experience?
Because I could remember, I don't know if you remember right over auntie used to live there. And there was a mango tree in front of the gate over
My interpretation is my interpretation. I guess for me as a second generation, my idea of Jamaica came from Nanny's home and being in her home. And although we've been to Jamaica, it's not the Jamaica of my mind. It's Jamaica, but I have another Jamaica, which is something that I guess Nanny has planted. It's also about my gaze and how I've interpreted that with my own creativity and imagination, and how it's, I guess, it's, you know, taking her story and creating another story. You know, do you have your own interpretation?
I suppose I am creative in a sense. I am, because what I do is I collect loads of photographs. So I've taken like loads of pictures of going on my trips to Jamaica, like talking to people. Just like, for me, it's about photographs. So that creates a like memory, even if it's just a scenery somewhere that I've gone, it's creating a memory. So from those memories, you do have stories, because then there's the older generation and they do like to talk.
Would you say you were consciously archiving history?
Unconsciously, I would say. I guess because it's something that I like. So I've just been doing it over the years. And then you've picked up on that.
The idea or a question that I've had with myself is, am I archiving or am I storytelling, or are they one of the same things, you know?
Archiving is a process of selection, right? And it's made possible by a specific relationship with technology, right? And how technology allow one individual or a set of individual to arrange memories in a way they think is useful or important or meaningful. When it comes to us, archive plays a very crucial role, because it sort of like introduce us in the dimension of self-definition. So the self is a relational concept. I've learned that. So you are who you are because of how people perceive you, and how you perceive yourself because how people perceive you. So you have this continuous conversation between the inside and outside. And archiving helps you to have a sort of like trail of connection with who you are. The contentious point comes that archive goes with power. And if you look like in general, like around like structures of power, they're so aware of archiving elements, because you control a narrative, right? If you control the storytelling, if you control the technology, you control the narrative. And because we are in this intricate relationship between our future, they involve a big diaspora, and also our past, which involves our motherland. And the process of selection can be sometimes not, doesn't necessarily reflect where we come from, but where we are going. And that's where the contentiousness comes from. So it's a conversation that happens across different localities, different geographies, and so on and so on. It becomes very, very complex.
I'm working with juxtaposition, you know, in terms of the archive, and when we make our pieces, it's there's references, but I wouldn't say like the archive is not the reference. It's very much when we shoot, that's where I get to dip into my imagination.
The fact that it's exciting to think about now that, okay, like 20, 30 years time, maybe there's some young ones that see this and it enlivens something within them to create how we were creating. And it's not like, oh, I'm expected to make people look like this, or I'm expected to shoot people that look like this. I'm just gonna do it how I feel, which is it's cool.
Through family, we find our identity and our heritage, and I think like that's what it's about. It's about our family, but then it's also about a wider I guess identity of the diaspora, as Black people, Afro-Caribbean people, and documenting the traditions, let's say, and that's, I guess, what I'm also, as you spoke about history, that's what I'm also interested in.
I think it's experience. So as a community, the wider community, it's all about everyone's experience. And although, we're from an Afro-Caribbean background, there are many different islands within the Caribbean, and we all sort of like have similar experiences. And I think that's what draws us together.
Especially this specific work is heavily based on family, and as you spoke about earlier, things like Nanny's kitchen being the center of the family, and within some of the work, it plays heavy into that.
It was so good those days, honestly. Imagine those days were so good. Everybody just chill out together. No.
But Mom, you remember when she started changes?
I remember when she started changing.
Eh? Is it 62 or 69?
The way we save memories and the way we archive is always through the allegory and the symbol. But now with these technologies that we have, when we talk, for example, about your grandmother, we are engaging with the realism, with what is real. That's what's happening, right? And usually even like through music, and when we talk, there's always the double entendre, there's always like the word play, there's always like, I say that but meant that, but maybe it means that as well. Did you get it? Like even like with the drums, I'm playing this, but you understand that because I'm talking about that. But now, when you take the everyday life and you bring it forward, like it can happen also in film, it's a very interesting conversation because for the first time, we can expose who we are in the most honest way possible because of technology. That was impossible before. And for me, that's interesting because when I go in a room and I look at your two-screen experience and I see myself in you, and maybe you think about the way I can see myself in you, what happens there? I don't have an answer to that, but it becomes interesting because from there we have a new African, we have a new consciousness, we have a new way of perceiving ourselves and perceiving the world that is around us that maybe our parents didn't have the opportunity to do so. And I think technology plays a huge role into that.
I think it's important to keep the stories alive because it's your history. It's about your ancestors. It's about knowing like your past. This was like a foreign land to her. As most people when they came for a better life that they had back there and to have greater opportunities.
Can they coexist, being British and Jamaican?
I suppose they exist in me because I'm British or British born, but I still say that I'm Jamaican. So if someone says to me, like, who are you or where are you from? I always say I'm born here, but I'm of Jamaican heritage. That's how I describe myself.
So even though you're born here, you describe yourself as being from Jamaican heritage.
Yeah.
I guess at what point does it stop to where you're just born here?
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't.
It doesn't stop because that's in my DNA. It's part of me.